Hello, Michael. Thanks for coming today.
Sure, Austin. Good to be here.
Good. We've met together, you and I, with other liberty-minded organizations to work together to resist unconstitutional acts like warrantless wiretapping and things like domestic military operations in violation of posse comitatus. What are your goals with these liberty coalitions that you're bringing together, and how do you use grassroots activism to bring about change in the direction that you seek for your issues?
I would say there's three primary goals. One is very short term, and the other two are longer term. Short term, you just named them, is actually repealing or at least modifying some of these unconstitutional provisions that are included in various bills like the Patriot Act or other such bills that under Bush or Clinton or Reagan or Bush or all the way back have been implemented and obviously are violate our constitutional rights. So short term is just protecting our constitutional rights and making sure there's proper checks and balances in place. Longer term, in terms of some of the left-right work that I do, which is most of the work that I do is bringing liberals, conservatives, libertarians, and progressives together, has two purposes to it. One, by developing relationships across political spectrum and reducing kind of the characterological attacks and showing that people can actually work together and solve problems, I'm hopeful that in the long run, people will start to recognize the utility of solving their problems in the social realm as opposed to in the political realm. Because in the political realm, you use force to make your decisions. You have winners and losers, and the losers on the other end of the barrel of the gun, literally and not so literally. And in the social realm, you can try new things, you can experiment, and you don't have to force what you think is the best way of living your life on everyone else. You can experiment with a certain group of people, and if the experiment is successful, then you can try to encourage other people to join you, and if it's not, then you can try other things. So I'm hoping by, as I said, bringing these people together left and right, that they can start seeing that talking with one another, using persuasion as opposed to force, and trying to solve some of their problems in the social realm is a better way of dealing with things than in the political realm. And what I've discovered I'm trying to do is to show people that all these issues, although they're kind of compartmentalized, are really the same issue. It's about individuals freely choosing to live their lives as they see fit without interference from the corporate state, whether it's in healthcare or education or wherever else. And my hopes are that we can bring people who work on these very narrowly focused issue areas and help them to see that their values that they're expressing in that area can also be expressed in all these other areas. And what they need to do is reach out to the education people, need to talk to the organic food people need to talk to the integrative medicine people, all the way down the road. And not only would you have, in a political sense, much more people active on any one issue, because they're going to hopefully come together and work on each other's issues, but in the economic realm, you'd have a lot more power to affect change in the market space. And I use the corporate state intentionally because I think if we can increase market power on any of these issues, we can change the dynamics politically and economically.
Now, I've seen you talk about transpartisanism. I've seen you, work on issues where, or put together coalitions where you say this is a transpartisan coalition. So what does it really mean to you to be transpartisan, and how successful has this approach been? What are your plans going forward with the transpartisan movement?
Transpartisan means through and beyond the partisan. So what we're not asking people to give up their partisan interests, their partisan perspective, their worldview. We're just asking people two things. Actually, we're just asking them one thing, and then we do another thing. The thing we're asking them is just to recognize that there's some values that transcend their particular narrowed interests. So, for instance, the Fourth Amendment, in terms of the Patriot Act, it's a very American value, one I support, one you support as a libertarian too. But you can have liberals who support the Fourth Amendment, you can have conservatives who support it, paleo-conservatives, you have all the political spectrum support the Fourth Amendment in terms of, let's say, the Patriot Act, for instance. So you can still be a conservative, you can still be a libertarian, you can still be a progressive, and you can all transcend your narrowed interests and say it's more important to protect the Fourth Amendment, Fourth Amendment, than it is my political party's interest or my narrow worldview's interest on certain issues. So they can all come together and work on a particular issue. Like, the Liberty Coalition, for instance, has worked on the Patriot Act, and it's a great broad left-right issue. In the House, you had Ron Paul. At the time, Bernie Sanders was in the House. You had Jerry Nadler, I think Jeff Flake. So you had a conservative, libertarian, socialist, Sanders, and then a very liberal guy, Nadler, all coming together as part of, I think it was called the Bill of Rights Caucus, or maybe it's the Patriot Act Caucus, or something along those lines. But it shows that they all can come together on a particular set of issues or a set of values. In this case, the Fourth Amendment.
So why are privacy rights so important to you?
Because human autonomy is very important to me, and I don't like the idea of anyone else being able to limit you or me or anyone else's options in the world, unless we voluntarily give up some of those options. And I think privacy rights as well as property rights are two kind of sides of the same coin that are necessary in order to allow people to freely act in their lives, or not act, but without kind of mental, emotional, or physical coercion against them. There are individual things that Congress, for instance, could do, which would actually remove the barriers for a more organic system to kind of come into fruition. For instance, healthcare mandates. There are mandates at the state level that insurance companies have to provide, reproduction, or mental health coverage, or Viagra coverage. Whatever the mandates have to be at the various states. You should get rid of all those mandates, and then you could have insurance companies provide multiple different types of products. Some less expensive that don't offer the Viagra,
Yeah.
and some more expensive that offer mental health treatment and Viagra. A whole bunch of different combinations. So you'd actually drop the price of insurance. You have to get rid of guaranteed issues. Guaranteed issues allow individuals within these states to purchase insurance after the fact. There's no way an insurance company can be solvent if it has to pay out money and not having received money previous to that from clients. I mean, that's just a non-starter and just raises insurance costs. Get rid of that, insurance costs will drop down. I think you need more competition among healthcare providers and doctors, and the way you do that is you remove or reduce the barriers to entry. So why can't nurse practitioners provide more services, which would compete with the doctors? Other acupuncturists and naturopaths and other kind of healthcare providers can do a great service to individuals. Mostly in the complementary alternative field, it's about actually optimal health and not just disease prevention. So if you remove the barriers for them entering into the space, I think you'd have a lot more people being healthy, for one thing, and a lot more competition, which would also drive down prices too. Another thing is transparency. These hospitals, you don't know what the hell they're going to charge you until you're home. You're like, holy crap, $500 for a thing of aspirin, or something crazy like that. Not that I'd force or coerce hospitals to open their books, but there should be social pressure unless they receive federal funds. Then you could say, well, they receive federal funds, maybe there should be some transparency there. But the more transparency for pricing, the better, because that way you can make decisions in the market space. Right. Well, I don't want to go there. I'm going to go here. It's less expensive. There are barriers to physician-owned hospitals coming into being. Those barriers should be removed so that they can compete with other types of hospitals. I'm a big fan and supporter of integrative medicine and looking at optimal health as opposed to disease management, which is most of our medicine. With that said, socially what we need to do is work against three things: evidence-based medicine, pay-for-performance, and health IT. Because what's happening in medicine, for instance, or in this case with medicine, is that those three forces are coming together to eventually ration care and create one-size-fits-all system of medicine, whether it's in the private sector through the insurance companies or the government. It's actually going to be for both, and let me explain. So evidence-based medicine, pay-for-performance, and health IT. Evidence-based medicine, what it is you're going to have subspecialties of medicine. So you have the diabetic docs who are going to say, this is what is a proper protocol for treating diabetes. And with my background in alternative and complementary medicine, it's not going to be nutrition and exercise. It's going to be a certain set of drugs useful for lowering, actually this is diabetes. So for, I was going to say cholesterol, but or you could do cholesterol. Diabetes,
but
heart
whatever
disease.
The prescription drug companies say is the best treatment.
Yeah, and that's going to be the protocols. And then pay for performance is going to pay you only if you follow A, B, C, and D.
Like what we have with school systems.